Hello and welcome everyone to our second event in this Studio Recruiter webinar series presented to you by 3dtraining.com. The theme of this series is how to land your dream job in 3D. And this month's guest studio is Piranha Games. Piranha Games is one of the industry's oldest independent developers in the free-to-play game marketplace. Founded in 2000, Piranha Games has extensive multi-platform and multiplayer experiences, making first-person shooter action games for big-name franchises with AAA licensed titles such as Need for Speed Undercover and Duke Nukem Forever, and also Mech Warrior Online. Now, a big question you may be wondering is how can you land your dream job working for a game company like Piranha Games? Well, today with us we have Cyrus Liu, head recruiter at Piranha Games, and he's prepared a special presentation for you today to be able to give you a glimpse inside the recruiting process and also what he looks for when making those hiring decisions. Now, this presentation has been previously recorded, but Cyrus is live online with us right now. And following this special 10-minute presentation, we will be opening to a live Q&A, and Cyrus will be answering your questions live. So, that being said, if you have any questions for Cyrus, we please ask that during this presentation, please type your questions into the Q&A panel. Of course, we won't have a chance to answer everyone's questions live, but we'll do the best that we can after this presentation to fit in the most applicable questions that everyone may be interested in hearing the answer to. So with that being said, I'll now hand the platform over to Cyrus as he shares a glimpse inside Piranha Games' recruiting process.
Welcome. My name is Cyrus. I'm the HR generalist at Piranha Games, located in Vancouver, BC. I've been part of the Vancouver high-tech industry doing HR functions for the last 4 years. With regards to Piranha Games, I am the primary recruiter working with the hiring managers and the hiring team from the initial job posting all the way to the offering stage. I do play several roles aside from being a recruiter at Piranha Games, but since we're talking about recruiting, that's what my focus is today. As mentioned, Piranha Games is located in Vancouver, BC, up here in Canada. We were founded in 2000, one of the oldest independent developers. In fact, we are celebrating our 15th year anniversary this year. We're having a party later on this month to celebrate that. A few things we do strive on. One, to be a small studio offering a close and family feel. That's very important to us. We do strive on 3 main principles: passion, creativity, and humility. This is something that we take on from our operations side, our development side, all the way to, and definitely on the recruiting side. So in terms of our main title, we're currently developing a free-to-play game called Mech Warrior Online. Anyone out there play that game? If you have, type in the panel and let me know. If not, you should definitely search for us and try it out. It's definitely a great first-person shooter game. So talking about recruiting at Piranha Games. So first and foremost, once we identify the need to recruit, I will always work with the hiring team and the hiring manager to get a job description for the posting. This really shows the candidate what we expect. For those job seekers, it's important to have the applicable skills, but it's okay to not always fit the bill. The job should be challenging to you at the end of the day. So there are few steps in recruiting. So the first one, as you can see on the screen, resume screening. So a lot of people always ask me, do I need a cover letter or do I not? Well, in my opinion, it's really not a must. The most important content about you should be in the resume. Use the cover letter as an extension. Clarify any gaps. This should be something that you entice the recruiter to explore more about you. The other thing that you could use the cover letter for, if let's say the job requires some type of written skills, cover letter is a good place to see the candidate's writing. It's a first writing sample. So make sure you don't have any typos or spelling mistakes in there. So, once you get the cover letter over and done with, really the work should be the resume. All the recruiters always say cater the resume to the job description. So what really does that mean? Well, first and foremost, don't say I will and can do anything and everything. We want to know that you're interested in the job. Second, really highlight your knowledge, your skills, and your abilities. So perhaps it's a programming language, a program that you learned at school, a certain tool, and relate it to the job. So that way we can tell how long you have been using that particular program for in a particular job. Now, you have a resume, you have a cover letter, what's next, right? Well, for most 3D artists that I'm doing the recruiting for, we expect to see a demo reel or website. Now, I think the schools always teach you to have that, but what they don't tell you is that you really need to also cater that to the job you're applying for. So, for example, if I'm looking for a texture artist for metal, it's best to show that you've done metal texturing in your demo reel or your website. That way I can say to my manager and my team, hey, this person has done that or able to do that, and gives us a level of confidence to pass your resume to the next stage. Now, the next thing that a lot of people will often ask me is, LinkedIn, do you use it? To what aspect do you use it? I think, LinkedIn is a good way to really capture everything we just talked about, but in a different perspective. It gives you a shorter version of your resume. It gives you a short summary. That's something that it gives a quick perspective, especially if you're trying to convey a lot through your cover letter, your resume, and your demo reel. So once you've gone through the resume stage, now you're on the initial screening stage. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, if you're applying to Piranha Games, you'll get an email of a few questions as a way of introduction, so letting you know that I'm the recruiter. And the questions are also talking points for our phone interview. So for example, I may ask you, why are you currently in the market for your next career opportunity? Now, grant you, I'm not looking for a particular answer. There's no best answer to this. Be as candid as you want to be. I'm not looking to trip you up. It's just information, as I said, talking points for our phone interview. So in terms of the phone interview, there's not a lot to prepare for. My phone interviews caters to the candidate. Sometimes the hiring team wants to know a little bit more about a particular role that you did, or perhaps I wanted to know if you actually did X, Y, Z as you stated on your resume, and to what extent. So I would probe on those points. At the end of the day, my goal is to get to know you a little bit more. And through our conversation, let you know a little bit more about the job and see if you're still interested by the end of the call. So my advice, be relaxed and let the conversation go whichever direction. So after the phone interview, we would likely send you a candidate test, in which case we call it art or design challenge. Now, I wouldn't go too much into this because we still want an element of surprise for our candidates in the future. But to give you a glimpse, at the end of the day, our goal is to, one, see if you know the basics of a certain tool or program. Two is to see your thought process and get your artistic feel. We want you to portray a certain level of realism. At the end of the day, it's a game. Just like a movie, you want to feel that you're there. So how do you convey that? How do you do that? And that's our key point. Often, the candidate test would lead to an interview. So in terms of once you score the interview, there's really two parts for us. You'll be A, meeting with the hiring manager and one of the team members, and B, meet with HR and the other lead at Piranha Games. Now, what are we looking for? Well, we're looking for people who fit into our environment. So going back to my original slides, we're a small studio, so we're looking for people who are driven and capable. You are often asked to put multiple hats on and change on the dime. Second, we're looking for someone who enjoys what they do. So this perhaps leads to a passion for games. So perhaps for those avid gamers out there, this is something that would be right up your alley. Now, how do you prepare for such an interview? Well, first of all, research. Look at YouTube videos, Google Piranha Games, and Google our game, MechWarrior Online. Look at blogs, read our forums. This gives you an insight of what's happening right now. Second thing, we always ask our candidate, do you play the game? It is very important for us to know that at least you've tried the game. You don't have to be a protege or expert in it. It's just the know-how. It helps you talk about it and getting the interview and really connect with the interviewers. It actually shows that you are interested in what you're doing. So really to conclude all this, now you've gone through all the steps. At the end of the day, the interview is for you to gauge the role as well as for us to gauge your A, do you have the knowledge to do this, and B, do you have the skills, and do you actually want to do this? So really your focus, aside from being relaxed and really letting the conversation go, is to show that you're genuinely interested in doing what you're doing. That gives us the confidence that you want to be with Piranha Games. So here are a couple tips for those job seekers and aspiring professionals. In an interview, always prepare and ask questions. Going back to showing you're interested. You could be asking about the job, you could be asking about the environment, the people that you'll be working with, any questions that you have, this is the time to ask now. Know everything before you get off either the phone or walk away from your interview. This is very important. It shows case that you are interested. The second tip that I have, for those fresh grads and people who don't have direct gaming industry experience, try volunteering. This is an excellent way to keep fresh, keep yourself current and known in the community. So what do I mean by volunteering? Well, for example, you can go back to school and volunteer perhaps a student union or student body group, or you can try the local charities. Sometimes they need help for marketing materials or website updates, so you can help out in that end. So this is definitely something that you can also use to increase your network. Now, time and time I always tell people increase your network because the more people who knows you, the more people that connects with us, and often that's where referrals happens. But don't forget, don't name drop. We often check back with our employees to know, hey, so-and-so mentioned, you know that person. Well, what do you know about that person? So it's really important for you to create a strong network and create a strong portfolio as well as a overall image. So hopefully these tips help you out in your employment search and provide you some success. At the end of the day, recruiting isn't a cookie-cut process. It is different with different companies, but this is a general outline and generally what people go through, at least in the gaming and tech industry here in Vancouver. Hopefully you got a good glimpse of what we do at Piranha Games and what we expect from our candidates. It's not too uncalled for, hopefully. Again, Piranha Games is a small studio. We are looking for driven and capable individuals. We are one of the oldest independent developers for a reason. We have great staff here. We take care of each other and offer a close family feel to it. Now, if you are interested in joining our company, come check us out at piranhagames.com. We currently have 2 roles that I'm recruiting for. One, a hard service texture artist. The other, a UI UX designer. So come check us out at our careers page on piranhagames.com. Scroll down, and if this is something that you're interested in, send over your application, and I'll look forward to seeing it. Thank you for your time, everyone, and I look forward to hearing your feedback and questions.
And we have Cyrus live with us today, who will also be helping to field many questions during this live Q&A. We're going to try and fit as many questions as we can. Already, we had a lot of questions coming into the question panel. So Cyrus, one of the first questions we had was from Chad. And Chad was saying he's moved to the Pacific Northwest with the dreams of working with video games. And because of his experience lies in broadcast and feature animation, he has the lack of shipped AAA titles, and that seems to be his bottleneck at every turn. So do you have any suggestions for someone that's trying to overcome, as he said, this catch-22 of not experienced shipping AAA titles? So what would you say there?
Hey, Chad. Well, first of all, welcome to the Pacific Northwest. Welcome to the rainy side of the world, or North America. So in terms of overcoming that whole I don't have a shipped title, it really comes down to what type of studio are you looking for. Obviously, in a smaller studio, they're looking for a little bit wider range of experience from a candidate. So we might say we want someone who has done a little more and be able to put on multiple hats. But for example, up here in Vancouver, we have several large studios, and I think some of the questions that came through it also is the bigger studios are looking for you to be really good at certain skill set and really stick to that. And that's not a bad thing, and that's how you start your experience, right? It may not be a bad thing that you can't put multiple hats at the beginning, but surely by the end of that particular role, that contract, trying out different contract roles will get you that experience, that exposure, and being able to say, hey, I've worked on this title, I've been working on that title, I've specifically done this, and I'm really good at it, right? And you add a experience from there.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Cyrus. I think that's really helpful information, and hopefully, Chad, you find that information helpful as well as many others. It looks like Ted had a question here. Ted's from the other side of the U.S., Brooklyn, New York. He say plan on moving to Vancouver late December. Is it possible for people in the U.S. to work in Canada without being a citizen? So, Cyrus, do you have any experience with that? Know how to answer that question?
Yeah. So, yes. You can. Obviously, immigration laws constantly are changing. There's several things. Obviously, we have the NAFTA agreement where we can bring, workers, from within North America. But I think one of the things that us as recruiters always have to look at on the immigration side is they're more focused on, hey, have you tried looking for local talents, and what makes this person that you're bringing in set apart. The other side is also the company side. Does this person's skill set, are we really not able to find them within the local talent pool here? Obviously with bringing in someone in from abroad, from a different location, it considered, a lot of different costs and risks, right? So those are the factors that go through my head as I bring or see someone from abroad. But immigration side, usually with a skilled professional, these are high-tech professionals. These roles really aren't that uncommon for us, even within the studio here, to bring to relocate from the Eastern Canada, U.S., etc. So yeah.
Right. Well, it's really nice to know kind of behind the scenes what the thought process is with the hiring. So, Ted, hopefully you find that information helpful, kind of what the thought process is with studios that are hiring and what those considerations may be. Thank you, Cyrus. Another question we have from Glenn. I think this is a pretty common question. Glenn was asking, Cyrus, what do you do if you finished your schooling and you don't have any work experience? How do you go about getting some? So that kind of goes back, I think, earlier along the lines of Chad's question with that catch-22. How do you go about getting experience if you don't have any?
Mm-hmm. So there are, I see multiple questions, and there are lots of good questions, and I'll try to kind of cover a lot of it here. I don't know, one of the things that I often talk to students here about, who wants to gain a little bit more exposure. Going back to my slide, volunteering with different organizations. so charity organizations, and sometimes they need help for promotions, marketing materials, and the websites, and different things that they need. This is a way to A, add to your portfolio, and B, really be able to add to your experience. We also have something called up here in Vancouver called Think Tank Training Center. So you can actually Google that, Think Tank Training Center. So ultimately, this is for individuals who are looking for, let's say, mentors and mentorship within the 3D world. By doing this, you add to your portfolio. Adding to your portfolio, showing the variety of stuff that you do and you can do. That's one way of exposure and really showing the recruiter on the other side, the person reading your resumes and the hiring team saying, hey, I've done a variety of things. I've done it in different capacity, not just within gaming. I do have passion with it, but I'm able to transfer these skill sets across the industry.
Very good, and that reminds me of another question that I saw on here. I'm just scrolling and looking for that. It was Stanislav, and sorry if I mispronounced your name there, but the question was, how do you look at experience or rate experience from non-gaming work, for example, motion graphics? So do you find that is relevant when you're looking at work like that, Cyrus, or how does that come into play with the hiring decisions?
That's actually an excellent question. For us, whether it's a technical and non-technical role, we often look beyond, the direct experience. So when it comes to kind of, direct gaming experience and whatnot, looking back at a job description, right? We really look at what are they trying to focus on. What are they really asking for, and try to really hone in and saying, well, perhaps showing your resume, and this is where a cover letter comes into play. Really saying, hey, I know you're looking for this. It may not be right off the bat that I've done this when I, worked at XYZ company, but, this is where you kind of document a little bit more saying, hey, I had that exposure to this. Because, for example, in a technical customer service role, you may not have done this, but when you're talking with the programmers and talking with the artists, you might have ideas and implement certain things. So you want to be able to show that and really kind of carry that through. It may not be right off the bat that you see it from a title of a person, but this is where you go into it a little more with your resume and with your cover letter.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip, be able to use the cover letter to bridge that gap and try and help yourself as far as how you may fit into that role, that position. So very good suggestion there. Dante had a question that was saying he's a senior in college and he's decided to send his cover letter, his resume, early. So what he's wondering is it possible that recruiters or gaming companies would hold a position or hold a spot for him? So is that something that's common, or what type of practice do you have there?
So it is, from my experience, depending on kind of which company you're working with, it really depends on their practice. Obviously, it needs to work with their production and development cycles. So, for example, if, and this is a frank question to ask a certain recruiter if you do know, networking, and certain companies have different practices. For us, we are, looking for talent, but it's not that we're looking constantly, holding jobs for people. Because at the end of the day, it is a contract, it is a binding thing that we don't want to overcommit ourselves. Right? Think on the business side. If I'm holding a job for someone who would be great, but what if the project doesn't come out later on, right? So there's that liability there once again. So really, becomes a skill set hit, saying, making that initial introduction. It may not be for a job, but make that introduction and say, hey, I'm really interested. This is what I'm doing, and try to, I guess, sell yourself, set yourself up. And, once later on, when we are doing recruiting for those positions or something similar of that nature comes, right, that's where we go, hey, remember that person that we spoke about? That person might be good for this. And this is not just, speaking with HR people. This is networking with, with your industry peers, right? Because the word spread, as I said, referrals, one after the other. So getting exposure to different levels within a company. Not necessarily the art director will always get you the job. It could just be a peer, your animator, fellow animator who's been working at the company for several years, right? Gain a rapport there.
All right, so it seems like kind of a central theme with some of these questions that you've answered. It seems like what's really important, what it boils down to, is think about the company, what would be in the best interest of the company, and then try and cater to that when you're applying, when you're networking, and that can really show a personal interest to get your foot in the door. Would you agree with that statement, Cyrus?
I would. I think job seekers nowadays have a lot on the web and have a lot of exposure to network and everything that you can find out a lot before speaking and applying for that position. And I think that's where we on our side is looking for that candidate is I think in my webinar I said that interest. This is how you show you're interested, that you are knowing and perhaps asking questions that most people might not think about. This shows that you're interested.
Excellent, and that'll definitely up your chances, your opportunities, what may be able to work there. Well, thank you so much, Cyrus, for taking time out of your schedule. Know that in production things are busy, so I know you're in the office today, a lot going on, but thank you for being online live with us and answering many of these questions.
Mm-hmm. So, Trent, just one more thing. I think there's a general theme. A lot of people are asking, what do you look for in the portfolio? What do you look for in a certain application? So I guess just one more tip that I will try to address for a lot of people. In the portfolio, obviously, I gotta tell you, a lot of times when I get resumes and applications, people send me a portfolio. A lot of the times the links sometimes don't even work. I don't know why. It should. So make sure that when you put in you're not missing a dash, you're not missing anything. That's the first and foremost, because you lose your chances, among 50, 60 candidates. Second thing, in your portfolio, talk about, rather than just the pictures, rather than just, your model and how you went about it, talk about perhaps the different technology you use, right? What did you use to render? What was the major tool or program that you used? And actually detail in there. It doesn't have to be like a long list, but identify which program you actually use helps out, because ultimately that also links to your resume. The number of programs you use and what we're looking for. We see the correlation. Go, oh, this person is great at 3D Max. Okay, and you're using that, and we see that in your portfolio. It carries me through and it gives me a confidence to pass it on, right? So a lot of the work, try to have a variety. A lot of people like to, nowadays, doing a lot of the NHL games or fantasy games, you're doing a lot of organic textures. That's great. If that's truly what you want to do, those are the jobs that you're going for, put that in your portfolio. But if you're applying for a mechanical texture surface artist, like we just recently hired, and think about our game, we're about robots, right? Giant robots that are 2-3 stories big. There's really not really organic texture in there. So you need to reflect that properly into your portfolio. So that's kind of what I have. Obviously, there's a lot, and different studios look for different things. And people look for different key things, saying, oh, okay, well, if there's certain questions too. Some of my hiring leads is looking for specific answers. But at the end of the day, is set yourself up, do your research, try to play the game, understand, and not gonna lie, people say Wikipedia back in school, you can't really trust Wikipedia. Well, for some of these, read the Wikipedia, read the forums, read the Reddit, right? You get a lot of everything in there.
Very good. All right. Well, very helpful information. I think Michael kind of sums up with thank you very much, Cyrus. Very helpful. I'm sure many would agree with those sentiments, those statements, and I'm sure we could do a whole hour of just live Q&A. So thank you, Cyrus. I can definitely tell that you and Piranha Games are interested in the professionals, the artists, the aspiring professionals that are here with us today and helping them to be successful as you shared a glimpse inside the Piranha Games recruiting process. So thank you once again. And would everyone like to express their thanks through the question panel? All right, I see some amazing tips. Thank you for your time. It was great. So Cyrus, direct your attention there to the question panel. I'm sure you'll appreciate many of those comments that are coming in.